TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the
Jared, hey, we're gonna need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of this stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
That's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the closing bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the closing bell.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's a special edition of the Friday closing bell at 12:38 on November 15th. An early edition. It has been absolutely bedlam here at the ECSI Sports Network. 10:15 a.m. I was a guest with Andrew McGinnis at McGinnis Picks YouTube station and Wager Talk. Go check that out. 11 o'clock, the NCAA Insiders started us off with Matt Grissom and Nick Hatcoat. And then at 11:35, Mr. Adam Trigger at Adam Trigger WT and Wager Talk talking some college hoops. Riley reached out and says, hey, I'm ready. Let's get it done. And I'm telling you right now, guys, there is so much to talk about. We could talk from now to tip-off at 7 o'clock tonight. So I'm going to do everything in my power to say short, sweet. There's so many topics, so many lanes and avenues to go to. I promise you I will do my best. So go grab a coffee, go grab a lunch, and go grab a scorecard, because we're going to bounce around every which way but loose and make your head spin like Carrie. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It's WagerWire. If you haven't downloaded the app, please head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It is free. Travis, Zach, myself, Amber Hawley, Jay Berry, Matt, the team is huge. We're bringing more and more people on. Come on board. I promise you, we won't let you down. Viva Tequila Seltzer, CT Bets, the team family. Go grab yourself a Viva Tequila Seltzer, and remember, the East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. And last but not least, Terry Smith, Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. Head on over to Facebook. Introduce yourself. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you. Then head on over to East Coast Sports Investors. Head on over to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Place an order today. Could be grilling as early as Sunday or Monday. So without further ado, Mr. Southside Riley himself. What's up, champ?
What is up, my friend? Happy Friday. I am ready to roll here. You said it. There is a million things we could talk about. We could probably talk about one topic if we chose until 7 o'clock tonight. But we will have to bounce around. So I am ready to roll. We've got a little NBA to talk about last night, I'm sure. Or not NBA, NFL to talk about from last night, I'm sure. We've got college football this weekend. Your NBA Cup games tonight. The group played tonight. I'm sure you're on the edge of your seat waiting for that. But of course you got fights all weekend long. So it's going to be a good show, my friend, and I'm ready.
Yeah, and my wife is on a 2-week mission to Cambodia and Thailand, and technically her birthday's tomorrow, but they celebrated. They're a day ahead of us today in Thailand. So happy birthday, April! You were missed back home here. I and my little pup Fenway won't sleep in the bed because the wife's not there. So I'm back to couch duty and falling asleep to the big screen, and I wake up to Rory McIlroy, Tyrell Hatton. I'm like, what the hell's going on? They're showing the Dubai Cup or whatever, and we haven't even gone down those lanes. Yes, a million things to talk about. You got Big Ten football. You got Big Ten basketball. Oh, by the way, let's start here. Tyson versus Jake Paul. Let's just start there. Guys, it's a glorified exhibition fight. They were supposed to fight around June or July. Mike was spitting up blood. I guess he had a ruptured ulcer or something to that degree. We all remember Mike Tyson fighting the Evander Holyfields of the world. We remember him 50-1 against Buster Douglas, losing there. He is an icon in boxing. He hasn't fought since 2002 or 2003 when he was starting to slow down. Now let's go move it up 20, 22, 23 years later. 58 years old, looks like absolutely Adonis. We see all the warm-ups. We inspiring. We've seen it all. On the other side, Jake Paul, a YouTuber, probably now a billionaire, owns his own sports book. He handpicks these fighters, whether it's from the UFC, whether it's past boxing champs, and no one's a better marketer in the world than Jake Paul. And he beats these guys well past their prime, almost like a Mayweather. Well, I'm not fighting Pacquiao till 4 years later, and just stiff arming the Canelos of the world. Who's next? Conor McGregor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The fight opened up 500-600. Jake Paul was favored, and the whole world's like, this is Mike Tyson. Do you know what he can do? Well, the fight was canceled, and then they reopened it around minus 350. They can't get no action on Jake Paul. And as early as this week, we had Bill Krakenberger on. He was talking about the offshore accounts, minus 260, 280. Well, yesterday at the press conference, Jake Paul steps on Mike's toe, and Mike hits him. And miraculously now, Jake Paul goes down to minus 180. My point is this, guys. It's an 8-round exhibition, 2-minute rounds. A 58-year-old Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. I'm not telling where you put your money, but I am telling you this. Unless Mike catches him with a haymaker in the first round, early second round, it's going the distance. They're going to be hugging it out. Mike's going to stand up, hoping to get it to 8 rounds. And if it comes to a decision, come hell or high water, Jake Paul is your winner.
Yeah, I really don't have much more to add other than that. Other than, I mean, even 20 years ago, the last time, and again, I've never been a huge boxing person, just, absorbing the facts and things that other people are talking about that I see relevant. But I mean, 20 years ago, we saw him running out of steam at the end of some of these fights at late 30s or whatever it was. And now he's 58 years old and fighting a guy who's my age, 29 years old, whatever the heck it is. So I'm with you. He needs to catch him early. I mean, I know there's a lot of people hoping he does catch him early, and that is really the path. But, I mean, we've seen a lot of these exhibition fights just like you said, be hug fests and kind of walking around fests and whatnot. So I don't know what to expect, but I'm with you. I imagine nobody's getting knocked out is where my gut is telling me, and like you said, that is going to be the end result. So you and I are on the same page with this one.
And if you have Netflix, you get to watch the fight for free. I guess there's 7 other fights and then the main event there. So enough said with that. UFC, Lou Finicaro on here yesterday at 3 o'clock. If you didn't watch the show live, head on over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors. The show is up there. Lou broke down 4 fights, of course, the co-main event. He talked about Oliveira and Chandler, who fought, I think, in 2001. He expects the same there. And then, of course, the main event, the GOAT himself, Mr. John Jones, against Stipe Miocic. I'm getting better on my pronunciations here. I think it was his 600. Let me give you the exact odds that I gave out. John Jones was on yesterday on DraftKings down to was 650, minus 650. You could have got Stipe at plus 470. 2 over-unders, over 1.5 minus 160, under 2.5 minus 145. The UFC card is yours, sir.
Yeah, I mean, you did say it. They this was a rematch of a fight of Oliveira's first title shot back in 2021. And Oliveira wins by knockout. Since then, he's won two of his 3 fights since then by submission. The other one, a knockout of Beneil Dariush. And the only losses he suffered are some extremely, as you and I'd like to say, bad men for Charles Oliveira. Just sticking on that co-main event here. So he, I mean, the end of his run was obviously marred by weight, miss weight and whatnot, that type of thing. So interested to see what he looks like tonight. If he looks like anything like we saw him over the last, whatever it is now, 5-6 years, I expect him to win this fight. Having said that, Michael Chandler's got that knockout power. So if you believe at all in Michael Chandler, you got to take a piece of some knockout because that is really the way it's going to go if he is winning this fight, is by knockout. I would be shocked if he drags this thing out and is the victor throughout the entire rounds. If he's got him, if he's beating him up as far as punches go, then he's going to knock him out at some point. That's the type of power he's got. So I would be shocked if Chandler wins this one by decision. Oliveira, however, if he wins, he can win it in a number of different ways. Knockout, could submit you, could drag it out all 3 rounds. And so I really don't know what to expect as far as how Oliveira could win this fight. But I do expect Oliveira to win. I would love to see a Michael Chandler knockout because they are absolutely electric. But leaning towards Oliveira in that one. We talked 2 days ago a lot about that John Jones-Stipe fight. The rest of it is some interesting fights. You've got some big favorites that are tough to get into. A couple of them on the main card. Bull Nickel, minus 1,500. Mauricio Ruffy, minus 950. So tough to even do much with these fights unless you really know how they're going to win those fights. But the undercard's got some really there's one big one, and other than that, there's some other really interesting fights. You got Mickey Gall, who I know is kind of becoming a fan favorite, or has been a fan favorite. 32, coming off of 3 losses, minus 140. That's kind of a spot where you expect him to bounce back and make a name, not make a name for himself, but solidify his name and solidify his status in the UFC. So I expect him to actually take that fight there. His opponent, who I do not know the pronunciation of his name, my friend, and I'm not even going to try, has gone back and forth, win-loss, for 6 years in a row. Hasn't won 2 in a row, hasn't lost 2 in a row. Coming off of a loss, so that trend would obviously say another victory, but I'll go with Mickey Gall in this one, a little size advantage and maybe a little extra motivation after 3 losses in a row there. Marcin Tybura is another favorite on the undercard. That should be a good fight there. He's aging a little bit. We've seen him slipping a little bit these last few, but he's fought some really highly ranked heavyweights. But now he's fighting a guy who's 8-0 in Denise. So I'll go with Denise as the underdog in that one. Me and my short underdogs, I like a little underdog action in that one, especially a Brazilian that's undefeated is usually a force to be reckoned with for the most part there. And then a couple other ones. You got Chris Weidman fighting Eric Anders. Weidman, I think even money last I saw there. He's coming off of a win earlier this year after a little bit of a rough stretch. Obviously, a fantastic first 6-7 years of his career winning titles, and then since 2016, is like 3-8 or something along those lines there. So I'll lean towards Eric Anders in that one, kind of continuing that trend of Chris Weidman. I mean, 40 years old. Eric Anders, no spring chicken as far as UFC standards either, and he hasn't had the best track record as of late. But one of those guys is going to kind of bounce back, and I mean, they both won their most recent fight. But as far as winning a couple in a row, need to get that under their belt. So I'll go Eric Anders on that one as well there. So other than that, a few fighters, fights that I'm interested to watch without having too much stake in it. Don't really know what the heck's going to go on with them. And obviously, like I said, that 4 or 5 of these fights got some minus 900s or 1,500 favorites on it. That's tough to get into. So could be some electricity. Could be a one of these fight cards that we're due for, where we get 4 out of 5 knockouts from some of these undercard fights here.
Not being the UFC expert, I turn to you. I turn to Lou. 2 things I wanted to ask you. Bo Nickel, came onto the scene. I think 2 fights ago was minus 2,600. I think he had a real lethargic fight not too long ago. Now you're saying he's minus 1,500. I think it was actually 1,600 yesterday. What is his path? When is he going to fight someone that he's not going to be minus 1,000?
Right. You would have to imagine it's after this one. This is his. I'm just looking at his log right now. This is his 4th fight in the actual sanctioned UFC. Before that, he had a couple in the Contender Series. But I mean, there's a part of it is people don't want to fight him because he's a bad dude for the most part there. And obviously they're trying to give him some different styles here. So I mean, he's fighting a guy who's lost 4 of his last 5 himself in Paul Craig here. So I think after this one, you got to start throwing him some legitimate fights there, and that's what I would expect. I don't know who's in line. I haven't been following the storylines on that one necessarily, but after this one, he's got to fight something that's a legitimate challenge for him there.
Lou brought up, I guess, months and months ago to his clientele. They have a big futures ticket that on January 1st, 2025, in the UFC, Tom Aspinall will be the champ / the number 1, however you want to coin this. Dana has made it clear. Mr. John Jones, who is his GOAT, is his son. If you are to win tomorrow, which everyone expects, at Madison Square Garden, your next fight will be against Aspinall. And I think Mr. John Jones himself says, if I fight again, I'm going to fight against Alex Pereira. So of course, we know Dana tells you who you're going to fight. You bow down and say, thank you very much, sir. Give me another one. John Jones wins this. Do you think he can be persuaded? He made it clear this week he doesn't want to do business with Aspinall.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think, yes, I think so, and you never know. I mean, some of this as far as billing for some of these fights, whether it's how much truth is in what spot, if it's him just trying to drum up some interest in the fight or not, I don't know. But either one would be an awesome fight that I'd sign up for. So I would say the answer is yes. If Dana is saying it and Tom Aspinall's next. If you're Tom Aspinall, you got to start to get upset as far as deserving a title shot after this. So I'm with Dana, and I think it's going to happen next up.
If John drops the mic again, and this is as fictitious as it comes, an Aspinall Pereira fight, who do you think's favored there?
Are we fighting at heavyweight then?
I guess we would Pereira. Yeah, Pereira wants to fight heavyweight. That's where the money is, and that's where Aspinall is, right?
Right. So I'll go Aspinall. I mean, we've seen some of these the bigger fighters. You expect the smaller fighter, who's the hot fighter, to be the one, and then they show up and they're fighting an absolute bear. So I'll go with Aspinall as far as maybe he won't be favored, but I would take Aspinall in that fight.
Okay. Let's transition. You're the Big Ten guy. We got Big Ten football. We got Big Ten basketball. Let's just start in the Big Ten basketball. Is there any games tonight, or is there anything over the weekend that in the Big Ten?
We've got a good night of Big Ten basketball action. If you alert your eyes over to the board there, a bunch of good non-conference games. Honestly, a big slate. We could talk about Big Ten basketball for an hour here. You've got TCU, Michigan. Michigan looking for a bounce back. Alabama, Purdue is certainly the probably the marquee of the night. Number 2 Bama and number 13 Purdue. That one is in Purdue, and Alabama's a 2.5-point favorite. So that one's going to be a really good measuring stick for both these teams. Neither of them have faced any real competition to this point. Purdue kind of playing with their food a little bit earlier this week against Yale. I didn't get to watch much of it, but pretty close game there. So I know everyone, the world is looking at Alabama as one of the title favorites this year, and I'm not saying they aren't, but we've seen them struggle at times in the early portion of the season. So maybe I'm a Big Ten homer, but I don't know. Any interest in that one from you? A little Purdue respect out of that one there?
Well, I had an opening number of Purdue -1 or 1.5. I think there is an injury. I don't know exactly in or out, but I do know the whole world's on Alabama. They grabbed the 1.5. Now I've seen Alabama as high as a 2-point favorite. Over here at Ken Palm, Ken Palm's got Purdue 81-79. Roll out the ball. First one to 80 wins this one. I'm rooting for your Purdue team. This Alabama team returns everyone. We know if they're hitting the threes, forget about it. There's not a team in the country that can beat them if they're hitting the threes here. But again, Ken Palm's got a 2-point win for Purdue. It's going to be one hell of a game.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this one. Penn State, I was going to say hosting, but not hosting. That is a neutral site against Virginia Tech. Kind of some fringe, I don't know if dark horse is the right term, or dark horse tournament teams potentially in both of these conferences here. With these two is a decent one, but Penn State -7.5, so certainly getting the respect. Maybe I'm greasing up Virginia Tech a little too much there, but Penn State potentially a respectable team. Both these teams 3-0. That one will be on Peacock. So interested to see if Penn State flexes their muscles a little bit. You got Marquette and Maryland. Maryland 2.5-point favorites over a AP ranked Marquette team there. Marquette flirting with Central Michigan earlier this week as well. That one is in Maryland. So again, you and I especially, it seems like Fridays especially is a red flag when we're talking about Maryland football and basketball. I don't know why it's Fridays. I'm staking my flag and leaning towards Maryland, but that means they're going to lose. They'll be down 30-7 in the first 5 minutes of the game out of this one. We just can't talk about Maryland in this one, my friend. And is it just Fridays? Is it just Fridays, or is it any day?
No, it's Fridays and Sundays.
Yeah.
That Sunday night 6:30 standalone game. It's where the Terps become the twerps. I told you, we've talked a million different stories. I go back to the Michigan State Sunday night game, and the Michigan State, I think, was undefeated, and Maryland was like a 3.5-point favorite. And we were on Maryland, of course. And the first flash I saw of the game was 20-2 Michigan State. Thanks for playing. So big slate. I wanted to go back. West Virginia. No. Where was it? You were talking Virginia Tech, Penn State. Ken Palm's got Penn State 78-72. The real headliner, and I hats off to you, I think, on this one here. Arizona, who Ken Palm's got 7th, playing Wisconsin, who is 40th in the Ken Palm. Arizona 77-75. So Ken Palm's got Arizona winning by 2. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was where I was going next, and I hope it's not just respect to the home court, because historically we obviously know that's a fantastic home court, and it is. Just seems in the Greg Gard era hasn't been as stingy as the Bo Ryan era as far as that home court in Wisconsin. Again, I think this Wisconsin team could be kind of like last year, coming out of the gates a little hot, and a little sense of urgency here for Greg Gard or just for the season there. So it was surprising to me. It was definitely surprising to me, especially with how good this Arizona team is and is going to be here. So I'll lean towards it being a close game, but I'm a little nervous. I think I've seen this situation a couple times where Wisconsin's getting this respect, plays really well, and then just falters a little bit down at the end with not quite the same amount of talent. So this was surprising to me, but I'm hesitating a little bit on the full respect for Wisconsin here.
Again, the big slate of college hoops, headlined by Alabama, Purdue. We talked about Arizona, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Texas A&M. Ken Palm's got A&M 74-71 there, Riley.
Yeah, that one, another solid one. Another, this one's a home court game for the non-Big Ten team, Texas A&M here. They actually, Texas A&M gets the opening night loss to Central Florida in a close one there. Ohio State, we've seen already take down Texas. So the respect here after Ohio State beats a Texas team was a little eye-opening that this one's 5.5 towards Texas Tech, where we're talking about some of these games as 4.5s, 2.5s in these situations here. So feeling a little respect towards Texas A&M on the 5.5. What about you?
No, I agree with that there. Again, because I'm gonna transition to the next game here. Again, Ohio State living high off the hog after beating Texas, upsetting them here, and then look for A&M in a bounce back spot again. Ken Palm's got that 74-71. You talked about Michigan. We went against them on Sunday against Wake Forest, and Wake Forest upsets them. A good bounce back spot against the TCU team. Ken Palm's got Michigan 78-71 in the bounce back spot.
Yeah, interesting. I was looking at Texas or TCU's schedule so far. Haven't really faced any tested by Texas State earlier this week, and then Michigan obviously looking for that bounce back. I think just a culture shift a little bit with new coaching regime is going to be good in these home bounce back spots. So interested to see if that's what we see tonight, and I'll lean towards Michigan taking the win here tonight.
Iowa versus Washington State been very successful the last few years on some spots for the Iowa team total. They've been getting into the 90s, sometimes 100. Ken Palm's got Iowa 87-79, so they got them out of that 90 spot there, but they got them comfortably winning by 8. What are we supposed to be looking for from the Hawkeyes this year?
It's more of the same, and like I said, it's kind of a sense of urgency year, in my opinion, for Fran McCaffrey here. Almost said Kirk Ferentz again, like I did last week. Fran McCaffrey, both been there for ages. Because we haven't seen since this transition in the NIL era, they haven't had as much success since Luka Garza left a few years ago. So they're going to have that same MO. I mean, they've already scored their 3 games, 89, 89, and 96. Of course, it's against nobodies for the most part there, but that's still going to be their MO is trying to light up the scoreboard, run and gun. And so it's a team where if you got that spot where it seems like all things are lining up to have an offensive outpouring, it's definitely a team that'll get you there. It's also a team that, if they're shooting 20-25% from 3 is going to be down, 80 to 65 in the blink of an eye. So I like what I've seen so far from Iowa, and I think they might be better than what I initially expected this year. But it's still a kind of a hot button team where, you could expect them to win by a dozen. And like I said, they just don't have it as far as shooting and, maybe some turnovers in the fast pace that they play. So I'll lean towards them here tonight to have a nice night, but I'm a little weary as far as what we'll see, and maybe we see one of those cold nights.
I have to bring up one game, not Big Ten related. The Big East has started off slow the first 2 weeks. My Huskies haven't, but that's for another show here. A team where coaching, obviously, and recruiting is taking a big hit. I'm talking about Villanova here that has been just upset. We expected it somewhat of a bounce back. And they have come out of the gate slow, and they're playing a Virginia team where again, at the right before tip-off, the head coach taps out. I've had enough. I'm not dealing with the bullshit of the NCAA, the transfer portal. Ken Palm has Villanova 69-65 winners tonight against Virginia.
Yeah, this is it's an interesting one with the coaching situations on both sides here. So this is one that I don't know what to expect out of it. You've obviously Virginia. They lose Tony Bennett there. They haven't had Tony Bennett now this year, and they haven't been the same these last handful of years, anyways. So both programs just not going in the right direction right now is kind of the conclusion of this. And Villanova obviously 2-2, losing to a couple of teams they should not be losing to. So it seems like they're expecting them to bounce back here But I'm not holding my breath, and I don't know that I trust either of these teams right now.
College football, Big Ten, you got the, I'd say the second marquee game of the weekend. Obviously, Georgia, Tennessee. The playoffs begin on November 16th for Georgia. Already 2 losses outside looking in. But you have the headline of 7:30 Camp Randall in a line that smells to holy heaven. And then we had the NCAA insiders on today, and they were talking about the Oregon coach. They're already in the Big Ten championship. It's not they get the number 1 ranking. They have one of the Heisman favorites with Dylan Gabriel, or co-favorites with Travis Hunter and a few others, Cam Ward. But the line that keeps dipping, I know how hard it is to play at Camp Randall.
Yeah.
Now you give them a night game. And this line, I said it all along, if you can get 14s, 14 and a half, whatever you get, take Wisconsin and the points, but don't stop there. Pizza and beer money on the money line on the upset. I smell upset here. I don't know why. They'll probably lose by 40. Am I drinking the Kool-Aid here?
It's weird. I mean, the other part to add about this is they're coming off the heels, and they did have a bye week, but they're coming off the heels is getting the doors beat off of them by an Iowa team that we haven't. I mean, their offense isn't as bad as they've been, but still not good. 42-10, and now going back home. I've been vocal. I trust the Luke Fickell era process eventually to iron out and be a good team, but this would be that kind of win that would jumpstart you into the future of that era. So. But especially with Oregon, Oregon, of course, is the better team, the more talented team. They can stomach a loss, still get into the Big Ten championship game, win the Big Ten championship, and be the 1 or 2 seed in the college football playoff. So, not to say that it doesn't matter, but there's not a ton of stakes in this game. And then obviously, if they were to lose this one, they would need to wake up and beat Washington next week. But even if they were to lose this week, there wouldn't be a ton of stakes. They might sit some guys in the second half or against Washington next week, depending on what the stakes are here, because they're going to be in the Big Ten championship game unless they lose both these games, which if they lose this one, like I said, they're going to wake up and they're going to smoke Washington. So I'm with you. I would. It's also possible, like you said, that they win by 40, but there's a lot of things pointing to Wisconsin having a really, really good fight in this game here.
Yeah, and this matchup of Oregon and Washington next week, this was an Oregon team last year that went into Washington, one of the better games against Penix Jr., against Adunze, against Polk, and I thought they lost the game, but they lost it on stupidity, and there was no question in my mind they were going to catch them in the Pac-12 championship, of course, and they were 9.5 point favorites against Washington, and Penix said, hold my beer, and next thing you know, Washington playing for the championship in college football. So a lot of at stake and revenge on the mind for the Ducks next week. And don't forget, Ohio State plays Indiana next week as well. So this game here, if it was a noontime game, I'd say the Ducks will fly in. They'll get it done. They'll find a way. 7:30, that crowd, you're going to be hearing a lot of jump, jump, jump. The crowd's going to be going crazy. Tough spot for the Ducks there.
It is, and that this is the time for that. Not to say that the home field advantage has been dormant, but time for it to wake back up into being, one of the top 10, 15 toughest places to play, honestly, for that program. So I'm with you. Elsewhere in college football, obviously you said Georgia, Tennessee. Big Ten we talked about the other day. Outside of the game we just talked about, not a ton of stakes other than some, fighting for bowl position and getting that win number 6 in a few of these games. So really nothing crazy to talk about there. Penn State, Purdue. Penn State 28.5 point favorites. We've seen some. Purdue's bad, but we've seen some fighting them in certain spots. So my gut tells me they'll keep it within 28.5, but the next thing I know, they're down 56-0 in that one. So I won't be putting my money down on that one, but that is where my heart is lying. Any concern for? I'll just throw a random one at you. Texas 12 point favorites at Arkansas. Any thought that Arkansas could be a little spoiler in that one?
I had my spidey senses up a handful of weeks ago when Tennessee came in undefeated, double-digit favorites. I told Matt Grissom of the NCAA Insiders, take the points and spread some money on the pizza and beer on the money line. They upset them. This number opened at 15, down to 12, 12 and a half. I think Arkansas will be competitive. A tough spot for Texas. I lean Texas to win, but I like Arkansas here to cover.
What about, I guess the game's not in your neck of the woods, but you've spent a lot of time around BC. BC at SMU. SMU trying to be, hoping to be the ACC representative in that in the college football playoff. And 18.5-point favorites at home there. Is that a done deal, or is there any life for Boston College there?
Paul Stone liked BC plus the 18.5. He was on yesterday at 11 a.m. Go catch that on our YouTube channel. I had Ron Marmolewski on at 5 o'clock. He was thinking SMU gas pedal, and he brought up a great point. Last year, BC hosted SMU in a bowl game in a cold December Fenway Park. SMU closed double-digit favorites. BC upset them. Last week, BC beat Syracuse in a back-and-forth game. Coach O'Brien pulls Castellanos. And then next thing you know, this week, Castellanos drops the mic and says, I'm done. I'm going to the transfer portal. Can't even finish out the rest of the year. So I don't know if O'Brien has lost the locker room, but I do know this. SMU team total over 35. I got them putting up a 40 burger. I just don't know what's left. Like BC, like Nebraska, one win away from a bowl game, and we know how hard it is to get that last win.
Yeah, it's interesting. They've got some potential after this. They get UNC coming to town next week and close it out with Pitt. So 3 chances for them to get there. The last one that I'll mention, BYU minus 2.5 at home against the 3-6 Kansas team. Are we? BYU's been skating by these last few weeks here. I mean, skating by against Utah, skating by a couple weeks before that, a few weeks before that against Oklahoma State. They're back home after a couple weeks on the road. Are we nervous about BYU in this short line against the 3-6 Kansas team?
You know, it's funny, and I thought it was brought up so well. We're finding ways to try to beat this BYU team. A handful of Fridays ago, we gave out Oklahoma State and the money line, and the last play of the game, BYU gets like a 35-yard touchdown. Last week, the end of that game was absolutely bedlam. They find a way to win, and now it's a pros versus Joes. Every person in my lane I've talked to is on Kansas. Matt Grissom this morning says not so fast. He compared this BYU team to the TCU team of a few years ago, which I thought was a great comp there. They just find ways to win, and we're trying to find ways for them not to win. Yeah. I'm going to stay far, far away. I would follow the pros on the Kansas side. Wouldn't be shocked with a BYU walk-off here.
No, and that Kansas team is better than the record says, but there's a reason why they're 3-6 is because they, on the flip side of it, find ways to lose games. They've been better lately. I'm drawing a blank on who they smoked last week, unless it was Iowa State or maybe that was a couple weeks ago. But either way, it's better than your average 3-6 team, but they also can find some ways to lose games. So. I go ahead.
I'm not gonna let you off the hook. We're gonna transition here in a second. But my Cornhuskers 9-point underdogs playing at the Coliseum against USC. Both teams fluttering. Nebraska 1 game away from getting a bowl win. We know this is year 2 of Matt Rule. Watch out in year 3. That's the year that he's always jumpstart these programs. He kind of teased us with the great start. The team is just floundering. Gets blown out by a bazillion to Indiana, then almost beats Ohio State, come back home, flutter again. Thoughts on that game, Riley?
Yeah, it's a USC team that outside of a stretch in the middle of the season has been pretty decent on bounce back spots, and so now after a few in a row, I think the line is fair, but it's also a Nebraska team. I mean, this USC team, typical to a Lincoln Riley team, doesn't tackle very well. So if Nebraska comes in and brings a little blue collar aspect to this game, then they can put a run for their money in it now. But I don't know. The spread, the total kind of suggests to me that we might be seeing some points in this one. And USC, I'll go Nebraska cover and they keep it close, but I'll go USC victory.
Last night, NFL, it was kind of, I talked about to you the overload, the sensory overload because of social media. There is my spreadsheets. It sounds like the Bellagio here. Every half point, every this, that, they're changing, they're flashing. I need to be wearing sunglasses here. Last night, we have a Oilers team total over 3.5. Oilers 0 for 4 on the power play. They scored 3 goals. Last night, we have the Eagles team total over 27.5. Elliott misses 2 field goals, misses an extra point. They land on 26. And here's how dumb Sirianno is and the coaching staff. Barkley scores in the fourth quarter, extra point. Barkley scores again in the fourth quarter. You're up 15, right? And he just runs the kicker up there. That extra point is meaningless. You go for 2 there and go up 3 possessions, or you don't get it and you're still up 15 and they need a touchdown 2-point conversion, which they got late, and then they still need another touchdown and an extra point to tie. They would have went for 2. Thoughts on what you saw with the grab-ass first half and then Philly just leaned on him in the second half?
Yeah, it's interesting with this Eagles team because we're seeing their defense playing really, really well these last few weeks, so respect there. And really, this offense is a hot Jalen Hurts away from being as dangerous as anybody right now. I mean, not to say that he's playing bad because he's not playing bad, but certain points where he's just not quite seeing the entire field, and so you got to get Devontae Smith going a little bit. So nothing too bad about the Eagles, but obviously that first half very clunky on offense, leave points on the field with the field goal unit and whatnot there. So I don't know that it's going to resolve itself. It seems like that could be the MO of this team. Just some clunkiness at times and a little inconsistency from Hurts, and then they'll have points where him and Barkley are rocking and rolling. So if their defense can play the way that it's been playing, though, they're going to be a tough out, obviously there. And Washington, I was going to start to be a little concerned about Washington, and then you look at their schedule and it's got 4-2 at least written all over it with some of the games that they've got left. I think they got the Cowboys now with no Dak a couple times. They've got Tennessee. Tennessee's a scrappy team, but they've got Tennessee coming up as well. So I think Washington will be fine as far as based on the schedule and getting into the playoffs. But I think we've seen that some good defense can come in and not bully them around by any means. They held their own water for a lot of this game and against the Steelers, but. Still just missing a piece or two on maybe both sides of the ball to be that Super Bowl contender.
I don't know what the temperature is. We're going to find out right now. I think your Packers are in a real tough spot this week, meaning this. You come into Chicago after the lowly Patriots sacked Caleb Williams 9 times, hold him to 3 points. Caleb hasn't thrown a touchdown, or the Bears offense hasn't scored a touchdown in the last 23 possessions. In come the Packers, healthy. Jordan Love, healthy. A line that opened at 6.5 that is now leaking to 5. There's no way that Caleb Williams is going to get sacked 9 times. We know that, number one. Number two, you fire the OC. The head coach is on life support. And I can just see a bounce back of this offense. I expect you to win, but I almost want to say this is like a trap game for you.
Yeah, and the only other thing that I'd add is that this Bears team and Jaquan Brisker, who's out, was one of the more vocal ones, has been, kind of licking their chops for this Packers team the last couple of years, and the Packers have continued to continue the ownership that Aaron Rodgers had over them. And so that part of it worries me as far as if the Bears were ever going to wake up, this is a time where they're going to, have some urgency here. So the health of the Packers is what gives me optimism. If that Packers team that was going into the Lions game a couple weeks ago, I'd be real nervous. Not to say that I think the Packers are going to walk through this one, but I think it's going to be a really tough game. And I think the Bears cover it. Obviously, I like the Packers to take care of business, but at the end of the day, you're right. I don't know if trap game is the right word, but you might say that. I guess out of the bye, I've got some optimism there. As not only the health, but just the preparation for this game there, I guess is where I would lean on optimism. But you're not wrong. It's a spot where if the defense isn't humming and giving Caleb Williams, the type of issues, of course they're not going to sack him 9 times, but if they can sack him even 3-4 times, I know that sounds like nothing compared to 9, but sack him 3-4 times, then this is going to be a tough day for Caleb Williams and really for the offense is Jordan Love, giving the Bears a gift wrap, extra 2 possessions inside the 50-yard line. That if he can clean up those bad turnovers, then the Packers will be in good shape. They've had a lot of games this year, even that they've won, where it ends up being real close games where this offense has gift wrapped the other team some additional opportunities. The Texans game that they won being one of them, where the Texans offense was not good in that game. Packers should have won that one going away, but they give them 2-3 gift wrap opportunities. So if they can protect the ball on offense and obviously it sounds cliche, but win the turnover battle, protect the ball themselves and find a way to get 1 or 2 on the other side of it, I think they'll be fine. But that's a big if right there.
I'm going to bomb through some team totals and some sports. Everyone grab your scorecard here. I'm going to make it easier on everyone here as we're trying to condense it. There's just so much to talk about. And again, don't want to overload everyone else here. I'm going to go to college football tonight. Some team totals to take a look at. Wyoming team total over 17.5. You can get that at plus 105 at Colorado State. Houston, Arizona, this has been bouncing back and forth. A lot of sharps are on Houston early. It actually moved them to a pick'em or -1, a late buyback on Arizona. Take a look at the Houston team total of over 23.5. You can get that at plus 105. I want to go to hockey right now for everyone here. Tonight, the Penguins team total over 3.5 at even money at Columbus. Vegas team total over 3.5 at plus 120. If you like Utah tonight, grab them at plus 116 on the money line. So you can get in both sides there. Utah plus 116 on the money line. Or if you like Vegas, you can grab their team total over 3.5 plus 120. And last but not least, the Detroit Red Wings travel to Anaheim Ducks. Don't lay the number on the Red Wings. You can get their team total over 3.5 at plus 110. Anything in NBA, Riley?
There's a couple that looked a little fishy. Sixers with a skeleton team going into Orlando, who have won I think 4 in a row. Only 2.5-point dogs in Orlando. No Paolo Banchero, but no Embiid, no Maxey. For the Sixers, that wouldn't seem to smell a little fishy to me, especially the way the Sixers are playing right now. Detroit going into Toronto, only 1.5-point favorites. Not a crazy fishy one because obviously Detroit, and not everyone's bought into Detroit at 5-8. But a bad Raptors team who's lost a bunch in a row. Only 1.5 was a little fishy to me there. Spurs 3.5-point dogs at home against the Lakers. I think it's a fair line, but you've got I think Anthony Davis questionable. The report I see says probable, but questionable I think is the official diagnosis. And you've got Jeremy Sochan out for the Spurs. So I think it was last, unless it was 2 games ago, we saw Wemby. He was putting up a 50-burger. So it could be a spot where we start to see him. Last time out could be a spot where we start to see him roll, and maybe the Spurs have a little action here against the Lakers at home there. Clippers and Rockets, I think a repeat of a game from earlier this week. Denver minus 3.5-point favorites at home, on the road against a banged up Pelicans team. Jokic is questionable, so that's obviously a big one to watch. Aaron Gordon's out and been out, so obviously gotta pay attention to what's going on with Jokic. Don't just jump into that one thinking it's a low line. Might be a no Jokic night there. Could expect to see him there, but only 3.5 against a really struggling Pelicans team right now. And you've got the Warriors at home, 7.5-point favorites, still rolling along. They've won their last 2, putting up some good points. This Grizzlies team has got some injuries themselves. No Ja Morant right now, so I think the line is fair. But if you haven't been on the Warriors train, probably not a good spot to just pop on the bandwagon now after they're whatever they are 9-2 now. I'm not saying that can't happen, but you've probably missed the boat. They could regress a little bit here at some point. So other than that, Minnesota and Sacramento could be a good game. Both those teams kind of pedestrian so far. Those are two teams to watch out for to really start to compiling some wins together for sure. Wolves have lost their last 3, though. I'll lean this one towards the Wolves on the road in Sacramento.
Good eyes there. Overnight, Sacramento, a 1-point favorite. Money overnight came in on Minnesota right now. Minnesota is the favorite there. Take a look at them. If you like Minnesota tonight, grab them on the money line. Don't leave a point and a half out there. Their team total over 11.5 is juiced to the over, so they're expecting them to get to 112 or better. And I'm glad you brought up the Memphis Golden State because the last memory that I have is Steph doing one of these. It was a big emotional game. The return of Clay, they were able to stave off Luka and company. And again, if you didn't watch the game or you didn't watch our show, me and Riley, I talked about how good is the NBA. Well, I'll just tell you in a nutshell how good they are. Golden State closed -3. The under-over closed at 237. The final score, Golden State 120 and the Mavericks 117. And you just ask yourself, how did they do it? I do like Memphis in that spot, catching 7.5, 8, and I do like their team total to go over the 114.5. Closing thoughts, Riley.
Closing thoughts. Get yourself strapped in and be within reason. It's almost the sports equinox this whole weekend starting today, if you will. With all the stuff that we've got beyond just the four sports, obviously no baseball, but other than that, you've got fighting, you've got golf, you've got everything. So be within reason, but have some fun. Obviously, if you're trying to have some fun and just be smart about it. We need to see here on Monday. It's a big weekend, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. But you got to be responsible, my friends.
Re-entry Monday night, 5 o'clock or a little earlier if we can jump on earlier. There will be so much to talk to. Again, I'll do my best to keep it short. I was on Andrew's show, and I'll say it again every Friday. What I do is ECSI VIPs. If you go to if you're not a client of ours or part of the ECSI family, go to our website at EastCoastSportsInvestors.com. You'll see plans and pricings. You click that, retail price $375 a month. There is a welcome to the family for $3 a day. Text sent to you with all our selections, our futures, our props, our exactas, and an email, not time stamped because we don't know when we're going to send it out. We're waiting for the sharpest information and numbers. But as I did on Andrew's show, I'll do it here again. I want you here long term. I don't want you here just for the rest of 2024. I don't want you here just through the Super Bowl. I want to take you all the way through March Madness in the first Monday in April as hopefully UConn cuts down the nets. Retail, that would be $5.99. We cut it right in half. For $2.99, you can get tonight's alert once we sent it and all the way through the first Monday in April for just half off. It comes to $49.99 a month, which is like $1.18 a day. Go to your couch right now, pull up your cushions, and I bet you there's $1.18 and change there. So if you want to sign up today, go over to Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, EC Sports Invest, send me a DM, or jump on over to our email address at EastCoastSportsInvestors@gmail.com. Send us an email, say, Jeff, I'm in. How do I get your plays? And we'll get you on board. So busy day here, busy weekend. The weekend is here. Shout out to everyone watching and listening. Mr. Sailor, Mr. Lucky, Amber, everyone from the Wager Wire community, the Viva community, of course, the Atlanta Steaks and Seafood community. We can't thank you enough. Go enjoy the weekend. As Riley said, stay in your lanes. Do not be the pizza man. Remember, it's payday today for 99% of the world. Fade the public Friday, or as Andrew says, it's Freaky Friday. Don't be one of those guys. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned.